Hello and welcome to the Curator Salon podcast. I'm Geeta Joshi, and today I wanted to do a short, hopefully it's short, mini episode where I am talking about a viral reel that I posted recently on Instagram, and the hook or the on-screen text is called How I Would Respond When an Artist Says They Want Gallery Representation. So I just thought if I elaborate it a bit more on the podcast, then we generally just have more time than I have space in a caption. So, first things first, I would ask if they had sold their own work to date or if they were trying to bypass the business activities. Business activities meaning, having built up some visibility, having sales, all that kind of thing. And, the logistics even that actually go around, having a business, right? Being able to ship work, having your preferred suppliers in place and things like that. So I would really want to know if an artist had sold their own work to date or if they were trying to actually bypass this. And I see this quite a lot where artists come to me asking how they can get a gallery to show their work. And, we always start with like, well, have you sold your own work first? And it's often like, no, because they want to bypass that part of it. They think that they just need to hand over some stock to a gallery. And when an artist hasn't sold their work, that usually, unfortunately, or often indicates that they haven't honed their messaging. They've made artwork and they're very, maybe even technically accomplished, but the thinking part is not always there, right? That idea of the artist as the thinker. And so what we're left with then is often, decoration. So I would ask if they had sold their own work today. And the other thing that this shows us is that there is appetite in the marketplace for this person's work, and that they also have an understanding of who their audience is. So if they had no business experience, then the next step is going to really to go and get that. And that it looks like getting a website, building an audience, whether you do that on social media, migrate them through to a mailing list, offering work for sale. Again, it can be through your own website, it can be through the mailing list, it can be selling directly on social media, it can be other online platforms, and so on. Studio visits is another way. So really kind of making sure that they have some experience around that and are comfortable with that, because a gallery is going to take 50% typically. I've said this before, but it can range from anywhere from like 30-40% up to about 70%. And you need to kind of know that if you were only taking half of your sales price, that you actually can sustain it. And I think there's a big misconception that when you sell through a gallery, that you won't actually have to do any of your own direct selling anymore. And for most artists, that isn't actually sustainable. It's usually, especially at the beginning, a mix of multiple galleries, maybe some online platforms, and selling then directly themselves, and understanding like how launch cycles work and things like that. So that is usually the typical kind of early stage artist business, right, where they're selling through multiple outlets. But before you have multiple outlets, you need to just basically set up a scenario where you're able to sell yourself. And like we say, that can be studios or even selling at art fairs and things like that as well. So if they have some sales under their belt, we're going to be then checking that they actually have some available work and are comfortable taking that industry average of 50%, because, it's quite a lot, right? If that, like suddenly like halving only receiving half of your sales price feels uncomfortable for you, then we basically need to use the coming period as a way to raise your prices. So we've talked about this before, I believe, on the podcast, where I encourage you to, always start, if you're right at the very beginning and really selling your first, first time out in the marketplace with your work, then starting with a price that you can always move upwards from. So that is what we want to be doing. And in doing that, you have space to grow, build that audience base, and basically just sort of raise your prices incrementally over time. And this can be when you launch a new collection. You can do it really whenever you want. I mean, anything in art business is like whenever you want. It's a very unregulated industry. But, typically like when you're launching a new body of work is a good time to raise your price, or, at the start or end of the year. You can literally just say, look, I've been selling at this price for a while, so, from next month I'm going to raise my prices. And if you're doing something like that, then it's a good idea to let your audience know that your price is going up next month, so that the people that have been on the fence about something might take some fast action and follow through with the purchase at the current prices. But incrementally raising your prices, media attention is a good reason to raise your price if you've done any kind of particular project, or brand deal or something like that that's giving you that extra visibility, that's brought more eyeballs to your work. Then again, that can be a good reason to raise your prices. So incrementally raising your prices over the coming period until such time as you're like, okay, now my work is selling at, I don't know, let's say a painting is £4,000, €, then you are okay with galleries stocking it and you receiving only half of that. So we want to make sure that you're already in a comfortable place with that before you actually go approaching galleries, because otherwise everybody's just wasting everybody's time. So that would be the next thing. And then we look at the exhibiting experience and positioning. So positioning in the marketplace, I sometimes use the word brand, but really what I do mean is the positioning in the marketplace. I mean, it's, and the exhibiting experience, like, have you actually shown your work anywhere? Do you have literally that exhibiting experience at fairs, at group shows? Have you had solo shows, open studios, something? And, or had your own shows? And the great thing about that is like just how much you learn along the way. And, that can tell us about some more experience that this artist has, and how professional and savvy they're going to be for us to actually want to work with. Somebody that has never exhibited before and never sold anything. To be honest, as an art dealer, there's too much hand-holding that's going to be needed there. So, that becomes easy to kind of turn away. So, having that exhibiting experience, like I said, art fairs are a great place, because they do typically attract a lot of, the good art fairs at least, do attract good visitor numbers, and you should be able to sell your work there. And that really does kind of increase your learning very quickly, very well, right? You do get a really good, rich experience from it, like the logistics of preparing for it. You've got the deadlines, about presentation, you have to learn how to talk about your work, all that kind of thing, the money side of it, and the being, professional part of it. So, somebody that has that exhibiting experience already, we can tell that they're going to be a bit easier to work with, because they know how this whole situation works. If I was a gallery, then they know what I do, because they've to some degree done it themselves. So that just becomes somebody that is going to be easier to work with. But from a CV resume perspective, that exhibiting experience also shows some credibility, I suppose is the word, that shows that they've actually got some experience, right? They've put their work out there in the world, it has been responded to, they have participated in, even if it was group shows, or maybe you're in a collective or an art group or something like that. All of that still shows that you're actually prepared and ready to actually be going out there and continuing that journey of exhibiting as well. So that, and then positioning, it's a bit the same, but it's also about, your price point. So knowing, who your kind of peers are, what are the kind of artists that you are exhibiting alongside. So that can kind of shape some of your positioning of like where you're going with your art, and the direction and sort of galleries that you would approach as well. And then I would want to know that they can talk about their work as well. And certainly I think if they have some exhibition experience and they have some sales under their belt, then usually at this point we can usually see that the artist can also hold a conversation about their work. And that is quite important, certainly for galleries that might want to have artist meet and greets or artist talks, when they have exhibitions or anything like that. You're going to need to be able to talk about it, or even if they are the sort of gallery that hires PR, or they're maybe just great on social media and they are, I don't know, doing talks with the artists, for Reels or TikToks or something like that. That I made the work isn't enough, or that I painted in acrylics isn't really telling me anything, right? I need to kind of want to know what motivated you to do that. And so, again, being able to talk about your work comfortably in a congruent way is going to just make you more authentic there as well. So that is the sort of practice that you can get, whether it's through fairs or open studios or exhibiting yourself and things like that, that you're actually able to bring to the party, right, when you're having your gallery introductions and conversations and things like that. So the next thing I would say is that because of this, it is normal to have a number of conversations about your art before being signed. So again, just being able to talk about your work, certainly more than just the process and how you made it, is going to be quite important. So, though I do say on this particular reel, unless you're going for decoration, where you might get away with form over substance. Ooh, spiky. Anyway, if you have this in shape, then my program Gallery Ready is the one you need to get in on. And this one is really about understanding the different gallery models, and then how to research galleries, what galleries want to hear, how to convey, the pertinent points that galleries want to hear, and understanding the various meetings, because there's likely to be a number of meetings between an introduction and actually being signed. So that is the program. If you have, if you've made sales, you've got some exhibiting experience, you're comfortable talking about your work, your art is priced at a level that you're happy to let the gallery have 50%, then this is the program for you. So when I write posts like this, there's always people that will come in and say, well, I know somebody, or I know a number of people that got galleries without any of this stuff in place. And that's great. I am talking to my audience. I am not saying this is the only way, but this is the known way. And for most people that are listening to this or follow me on Instagram, they are at the stage that they need to know this. And as I said in the hook in the thing as well, how I would respond, not like what's your opinion, because I never asked for it. Anyway, people do get signed straight out of art school, right? We even know like Charles Saatchi picked up, who was it, like Damien Hirst and various people straight out of art school. So this stuff does absolutely happen. But I also am not really speaking to that, recent graduate either. I know that my audience is much older. Many are self-trained. Many have come out of art school years ago, or they have recently returned to go and do an MFA and things like that. So I'm really taking this slightly broader approach of like, okay, these are the typical things that most galleries want. And your first gallery is most likely to be a more commercial gallery, right? And a lot of the times the reason the artists want galleries is to help them sell their work. Now, there's definitely the people that want the galleries to help them grow and expand their reach and take them to fairs and all the things. But again, this gallery relationship is something that usually grows over time. As the gallery grows, as they have more resources to even participate in fairs or invest in PR and things like that, or invest in solo shows or whatever it is, take on more premises, then that is something that can happen over time. So, really thinking about like your first or second gallery, or even having, one or two galleries at the same time, is very much just about getting your work out there. And from that, it's much easier, and this is something we talk about inside the program as well, that it's much easier to get your subsequent galleries, especially if you are somebody that is looking to have representation across different regions or geographies and things like that. And what's the other thing? Oh, and then somebody else commented that, it's a very long road before representation. And this can, again, like all the things exist all the time. And so for some, it can be. Like I was thinking about this before recording this podcast. There was an artist I met around, I think it would be about 2008. And I actually went to visit her studio when a friend of mine had open studios down the street from this artist. And so I happened across her work, and people at my friend's studio were saying, "Oh, you must go and see." And so I did, and it was awesome, and that was that. And then, I would go back when they had open studios in Brighton the following years and so on. But at that time, I was just there as somebody soaking it in, being excited about the work. I was there to support my friend, and this was somebody down the street that, they weren't friends or anything. They didn't know each other. It was just a discovery. And it wasn't until I got my gallery that I was like, oh yeah, that's the artist I should bring in. And then I did. So that's where things were simmering for a number of years, because I didn't have any plans, right, when I met the artist. And then I had the gallery, and then I reached out to her, and then over the following years we sold tons of her work. So that was that. But then but another story, at that time, so my point is that when we first met, I had no resources in place. I didn't even think that I would become an art dealer or anything like that. That wasn't why I was there or on the cards for me at that time. Years later, I had the gallery, and then I went to see, again actually, it was Open Studios in West Norwood this time, and came across an artist who was making stunning work, and I had never seen his work before. And I was in a different place in that I had resources in place. So I did have the gallery at that time, but I was also on the board of Camberwell Arts Festival, and that was going to be taking place a few weeks later. I had other spaces that were inviting me to put on exhibitions. And so in this case, I met this artist, even though I wasn't actually actively out there going, right, okay, who can I find? Let me look for a new discovery. I was just out there, again, supporting some of the artists I knew, and then discovering some new ones along the way, along the route, along the trail. And met an artist. He was great. The work was great. And after I left there, I was still really, resonating with that work and thinking about it after I'd left, and, hours later the next day. And I thought, well, what can I do here? And I did feel moved to do something. And I basically went to a space that I know, it was actually a coffee shop that wanted to participate in the arts festival, and tell them I found this great artist that I wanted to show, and maybe, the premises of the coffee shop could participate in the arts festival if they would let me have this, show this artist's work here, right? Then we could put it all in the brochure and promote the venue and all these sorts of things. So that one actually, so basically we met him, and then 2 weeks later we had the show. And so the point there is that things can happen really fast, because I had resources in place, I was motivated to do that. There was a timing of like, great, it's going to work for me, it's going to work for the venue, it's going to work for the artist. So there were a lot of synchronicities. So yes, on one hand, things can take years, and other times it just might not. It can happen super quick if you are ready. If we talk about even manifestation and things, right? When everybody's sort of on the same vibration, it can just happen, and we really collapse time. So yeah, and what's my lesson here? Don't be put off. It might be that if you reach out to somebody and they're not the right person, then that's all it is, right? There's a timing issue, there's a fit issue around all sorts of things, right? The things that you've got in place, the energy, maybe you don't get on with somebody, then it's, like putting all your eggs in one basket of that one gallery that you might reach out to is also, risking some sense of, putting all those eggs in one basket. It's just, if that doesn't work out, then being too disappointed about it, rather than being a bit more neutral and trusting that it's going to all find its way out into the world in the right kind of gallery and the right personality fit for yourself, which is also something else we talk about in the program, is all going to work out for you. So I just wanted to share those two kind of, one took several years before we did anything together, and the other one just a couple of weeks. So it is just about being open to the things, but just certainly getting yourself in shape and making yourself known. And that is what we talk about inside Gallery Ready. I will add a link in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed this episode.